This is part two on William Carlos Williams for this week's discussion. I'm going to talk about a landscape on the fall with the fall of Icarus. And the last screencast we talked about the red wheelbarrow, and we talked about this is just to say and then we talked about his deeply rooted in modernism, in imagism, and landscape with the fall of Icarus is no deviation from that. So he took his um, he took his inspiration from the Flemish painter Peter Bruegel, his painting, which you see in front of you, landscape with the fall of Icarus. And so this is an example of an ekphrasis, which is when you, as like a literary description of a work of art. And so this was the inspiration. And this is obviously not the first time that this has been done. There are multiple pieces over of poetry and literature that are taken from, or their ekphrasis that are taken from works of art. So you'll notice that what you have here is like all these people, in the foreground are going about their daily tasks. You see this plowman is plowing up his field over here. And I'm not really sure what the guy with the dog is doing. He looks like he's daydreaming, but we're going to say that he's working daily on his tasks. Down there in the bottom right hand corner, we see a man who appears to be fishing. Everybody is kind of going on with their daily. I don't know why that went away. Oh, there we go. Their daily lives. And then here in the water, you can see the man who is drowning. And that is taken from the Greek myth of Daedalus and his son Icarus. And so I'm going to kind of give you background information on that really quick, and then we'll take a look at the poem. So, long story short, Daedalus was a inventor and an architect from Athens, and under King Minos, he was exiled to the island of Crete, and it was there that Daedalus was ordered while he was in exile to the king. Minos had a beast son. He was a minotaur, and Dallas was given the task of creating a lair for this, a labyrinth, whatever you want to call it, for the king's son. So many years pass, and he's following what the king tasked him to do. He has a son. His name is Icarus. And Daedalus gets kind of restless. He wants to get away. I mean, he's tired of doing the king's bidding. He is tired of living on the island of Crete, and he wants to get away. Unfortunately, Minos, the king, he controlled the land and the sea, so escape was impossible. So Daedalus, famous architect, inventor, he decided to make wings for himself and for his son from feathers, and um, they were going to put these together, and they were going to fly away from the island. And so he makes these giant feathers, makes these giant wings out of feathers, thread, and beeswax, which is what was holding the feathers and everything together. And then they kind of like fit over the shoulder, like you see, like angels, and like when you have an angel costume, kind of like fit over the shoulder, and he prepares his son for the flight, and he says, Icarus, listen, he said, you know, we're gonna fly, and I'm gonna need you to stay kind of mid-range. If you go too low, close to the sea, you're going to get too much moisture in your feathers, and they might not be able to fly. If you fly too high, you might get too close to the sun, and the heat will melt the wax of your wings, and you'll fall to the ground. And so Icarus says that he'll do it. He's going to follow his father, not deviate from the course. Daedalus launches himself off a cliff and starts flying. And as they're flying along, they're passing over all these people on the ground going about their daily lives. But Icarus, so Daedalus is kind of mid range, and Icarus is like, I'm really loving this flying thing. And so he starts kind of deviating a little bit from the course. So he's flying down low and flying up high. He loved the higher sky, and he flew too close to the sun, and the wax on his wings melted and they dissolved and the wings came apart. And so he plummets to the sea, um, and drowns. And so Daedalus, he looks down, he sees that his son has fallen into the water, and he retrieves his body and they bury him in an island tomb. And then the story goes that they called the island Icaria and so on and so forth. So the painting is a let me go back to it really quick. The painting show is supposed to depict that everybody is kind of going on about their daily lives while, Icarus is drowning in the water and they're oblivious to it. You see the fisherman who's literally just, a short distance from the body, just to intimate kind of maybe that, uh, you know, that no one paid attention. They were too busy with their own daily life. So let's talk about landscape in the fall of Icarus. We'll read it. According to Bruegel, when Icarus fell, it was spring. A farmer was plowing his field. The whole pageantry of the year was awake, tingling near the edge of the sea, concerned with itself, sweating in the sun that melted the wings' wax. Unsignificantly off the coast, there was a splash quite unnoticed. This was Icarus drowning. True to his form, we have no punctuation. We have brief, simple language. There's no regular rhyme, no formal shape. However, all the line breaks kind of work as punctuation here for you, which is a very common pattern for him. Lines 1 and 2 mention both Bruegel and Icarus. So we see that instant connection there at the beginning. And it introduces so the pattern too is very purposeful. You have 6 syllables in the first line, 5 and then 3. And so even the syllable pattern is following almost to mimic the fact that Icarus fell from the sky. So 6, 5, and then 3. Um, which I think is very kind of interesting. Um, in the second stanza, you have some unintended rhymes. You have spring and plowing. Um, and I think that like spring into plowing, going into that, I think that it's unintended, but it also is purposeful in a lot of ways. So here you have in that second stanza a farmer plowing his field, which is important, right? He's refreshing the soil, preparing it for seed, this old tradition of the way of life. And it's kind of contrasted with that one off event, that exotic flight from this boy who flew too high to the sun, a flight gone wrong or whatever. And then pageantry is interesting there because pageantry either means it could be in a show, it could mean an elaborate display, and then it leads into that third stanza there. So he's playing around with the movement and the rhythm of the poem. Of the year was awake, tingling near, and so the um, he's that's when he is flying too close to the sun. So that's when he is the wax beginning to melt at that point. The fourth stanza, the pageantry is going on by the sea's edge. And so you have the plowman farmer who's farming right there. You have the shepherd looking up in the sky. In the painting, we're not really sure what he's looking at because he's not looking in the same direction as the way the Icarus fell. So was he looking at Daedalus, like flying, whatever the case may be? So if you notice on the poem, you have on the picture, you have all these. the natural life going on. You have animals, you have birds, you have the fishermen. Everybody is busy living their life here. They're unconcerned, right? The edge of the sea concerned with itself. They're not concerned with what's happening with this strange flying boy up in the sky, sweating in the sun that melted the wings wax. They're working hard. It's hot. Um, so hot that his wings are melting, which is a direct reference there to the myth of Daedalus. And then the sixth stanza there, unsignificantly, is probably the most important word in the entire poem. It's the whole line, 6 syllables there, unsignificantly. Okay, so the wax may have melted, and this boy plummeted from the sky and drowns unsignificantly. It's a non-event to the people on the island that are working. No one saw him fall, or if they did, they were too preoccupied with their daily business to notice what was happening. Um, so I think that that's a splash quite unnoticed. This was Icarus drowning. So I think that is again, he fell into the sea. There was a big splash, a big deal for him, right? He drowned, but nobody saw it, nobody heard it, nobody knew of it. And so all of that is more important what they have going on than this final flight of Icarus.